Hello everyone and welcome to Partners in Public Safety. This is a program where you get to meet the men and women of the Wilmington Police, Fire and Emergency Management teams. They work so hard throughout the day to protect us and our property, but this program is about how we can work more closely with them, make their jobs a little bit easier. This program comes to you, by the way, from the beautiful and state-of-the-art, I might add, Emergency Operations Center here in the Southbridge area of the city of Wilmington. Our first segment now this morning concerns public safety. Obviously, that's the main topic, but in particular, we're going to talk a little bit about camera. The city of Wilmington has this, we're kind of unique when it comes to metropolitan areas or municipal areas as far as the number of cameras that are out on the street. And I think this is also a very timely topic since in the news recently, we have these concerns being expressed about almost those big brother concerns, people watching us, listening to our telephone messages and all of that good stuff. But we'll get into that. But first, let's say hello to our guest. Joining me from the Wilmington Police Department is Corporal Jermaine Crawford. Good to have you with us. And also, Mike Magidi is here. Mike is with the Public Safety Unit of Downtown Visions. And Mike also retired as a captain with the Wilmington Police Department a few years ago. So it's good to have you with us both. Let's talk a little bit about the camera system. In fact, some of you are going to hear some information on this segment of the program you may not even know about, which is I think we're in a very wonderful situation here in Wilmington in terms of the number of cameras we have. But let's go through the history of the cameras that are out on the streets watching what's happening in this city. Mike, tell us a little bit about the history. How did we get to where we are today?
In 1997, the very first cameras went up in public spaces with the city of Wilmington, and it was really spearheaded by then Councilwoman Stephanie Bolden.
Stephanie T. Bolden.
T. Bolden.
T. Bolden. We have to put that in there.
She had 10 cameras installed in her councilmatic district. She sought funding for, selected a vendor, picked the locations, and they were installed in 1997, and the police department began monitoring those cameras back then. In 2000, a partnership between the city and Downtown Visions was formed, and Downtown Visions is the business improvement district in downtown Wilmington. And it installed 21 cameras in downtown Wilmington that are owned by the city but are monitored by Downtown Visions. And that really was the beginning of this partnership. Shortly thereafter, the cameras in Councilwoman Bolden's district were linked with the downtown cameras, and additional cameras have been added thereafter, bringing us up to almost 90 cameras throughout the city.
That's amazing. Okay, 90 cameras throughout the city. All of the feeds, all the video feeds from these cameras go to Downtown Visions, right?
Yes.
On Orange Street.
Yes.
All right, now you have a staff over there and they monitor these cameras, not 24 hours a day, but
16 hours a day.
Okay, 16, which is, again, still puts us way up there in terms of what cities are doing around the nation.
Absolutely. What made Wilmington's system so unique was this active monitoring. There are cameras all over the country and all over the world that are recording 24 hours a day. And in most cases, that's how they're used. If there's an incident, an investigator will go back in and look at the video and try to discern some evidence from that.
Right.
What made Wilmington's system unique was this active monitoring.
Yeah.
So that our personnel are trained to look for suspicious or unusual activity. If we see that, we focus the camera on it. We alert the police department. We provide a live feed to their dispatch center, so they're seeing the same thing that we're seeing. And in most cases, it then involves a response by a police or an ambulance.
All right, so 16 hours a day of live monitoring, but 24 hours a day recording whatever is happening out in the city that these cameras can see.
Yes.
And so let me turn to the Corporal. Corporal, how has this helped policing in Wilmington?
Well, as we all know, when the cat's away, the mice will play. And in this case, with the cameras, they see things that we aren't able to catch. While we're driving through a certain neighborhood, we may, turn the corner, and then all of a sudden, let's just say a drug transaction occurs. The monitors, the people monitoring the cameras, will focus in on a transaction being taking place, and they will notify dispatchers. In turn, they will notify us, and we will respond back with an accurate description because, again, the cameras do not lie.
Yeah.
And we use cameras for everything. So in that case, we can go in, respond to the call, and make an apprehension.
Yeah. There's a very cool feature of the camera system here in Wilmington, in that if your folks at Downtown Visions see something up on the monitor, that can be switched immediately over to the Wilmington Police Department, and they can take a look at whatever you're looking at. And you know, we had a discussion on this program a few weeks ago about the importance of police officers, if they're responding to the scene of a crime, having as much information at hand so they know what they're responding to. If there's someone with a weapon, if there's someone there of a dangerous nature, you need all of that, and now you can actually see it on these monitors.
There's been calls to where we would ask the dispatchers to alert or contact Downtown Visions just to let us know what's going on or what's occurring in a certain area prior to our arrival, just so that way we know what we're getting into before we get there. So again, it's a partnership that we accept and we appreciate because we help one another out.
Yeah, and you know, I opened the segment by mentioning the Big Brother issue and the fact that either government or other private agencies have these cameras. You know, I'm sort of way over that. Any privacy concerns I may have had maybe years ago, I think have been negated by the fact that I see the benefit of what these cameras provide. Mike, you've seen it as a police officer, and now you see it in your role as Downtown Visions.
When these cameras first went online back in 2001, there were some concerns around civil liberties and how they would be used. These cameras have been used in over 40,000 incidents that we've assisted the police or fire departments since they've come online, and not one civil liberties case has resulted from it. It's been well done, it's been well handled, and the police department have used it appropriately.
And I believe the community is on board with what we're doing, and it's used as a tool and not as a weapon. So we're using it to help solve crimes and to help prevent situations from occurring, rather than using it towards negative means.
Yeah, and I know it's not the topic for today, but the Wilmington Police Department has taken this whole camera concept, and now you've expanded it to invite people throughout the city of Wilmington to kind of be part of a database, to let us know if they have cameras.
Shared visions.
And shared visions program. Then that way, if there's a crime somewhere in the city of Wilmington, and it doesn't involve one of the cameras we're talking about, the police department can readily, or we hope, readily obtain some video and see what was happening there.
Yes, it's what we were asking is that civilians can go out and purchase their own cameras. So that way we will know what business owners have private cameras, so that way we can contact you directly if a crime did occur in your neighborhood.
All right. Well, we are being watched here in the city of Wilmington, but it's all for good reasons, and I think all of our citizens should understand how very fortunate and lucky we are here in Wilmington to have such a camera system. I know there are plans to even expand the camera system beyond what it is today, and it is with your cooperation that the men and women, as I say, of our police department can do their job in a better way, and solve crimes more easily, if you will. And that's what it's all about, getting the bad people off the streets. Remember, we are the majority. We're the good people, we're the law-abiding citizens, we're the majority, and we can't let the minority of the people out there interfere with our lives and our property and so on. All right, good. Mike, I want to thank you very much. Mike Magidi from Downtown Visions, a longtime friend here in the city of Wilmington, and it is wonderful to see you. We knew Mike when he was captain of the police department and worked with him for many years, but to see you shine also in this new role in Downtown Visions.
Thank you, John. It's my pleasure.
Good. All right, now we're going to turn to an unfortunate incident that occurred here in the city of Wilmington, but it brings us up to our segment we call Cold Case. Corporal Crawford, this incident goes back 21 years.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about something that happened 21 years ago here in Wilmington.
Well, it's the victim in this case is Jane Stewart, and she's a mother of 4, and she worked for a Newcastle County school district and also did some part-time cleaning in the city of Wilmington. 21 years ago, in the 500 block of West 35th Street, Jane Stewart was in her house between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. in the morning, and someone, unknown subject, forced his way into her residence through the rear door. Jane confronted the subject in the kitchen of her house. This is what we know so far, that she confronted the subject in the kitchen of her house, and unfortunately, She was brutally beaten with blunt force trauma to the head. The subject fled through the same way he came in, through the rear door, and at this point, we're still trying to figure out who the subject is.
Okay.
We also know that we have leads, and during that time, 21 years ago, the technology was different. So we're hoping that the technology that we have now, with the evidence that was collected from the scene, we'll be able to solve this case.
All right. And the reason why we present the cold case segment is in the event anyone watching this program has any information about the incident that the corporal just described, and what should they do if they hear something, if they know something?
Please give a call to Kimberly Paff, Detective Kimberly Paff, at 302-576-3937.
All right. Now, the cold case, for those who may not be familiar with the cold case unit at the Wilmington Police Department, this is a relatively new effort. At least they've stepped it up in recent years.
Yes.
Trying to go back and solve some of these crimes. Look at this one, 21 years
21
ago.
years. Well, the technology is different now. And again, I know Detective Paff, when she was here on the last segment, she mentioned why cases become cold cases.
Yeah.
And technology now is very different. We're up to speed with a lot of what we have, and we hope to solve some of these cold cases that we.
All right, good. Thank you, Corporal, for being with us
Yes, sir.
again on this segment. And remember the point of the program, partnerships. That's why the Corporal's here telling you about an incident 21 years ago. You may be able to help, and that's a real good partnership with the Wilmington Police Department. Thank you again for
Yes, sir.
being with us. We'll continue in just a moment.
Get your hands, you. You're not sitting here.
Yes, I am.
Move. Give it to him hard.
No. Ow.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Why you stabbing me with it? No.
They want to help,
Ow.
but don't know how.
Oh, you got...
Teach your kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
And welcome back to Partners in Public Safety, and we have one of our most favorite guests with us from the Wilmington Fire Department, Inspector Beverly Wilcher. And Inspector, good to have you with us.
Thank you.
You know, I'm typical. I'm a typical citizen. I don't like to think about bad things. I don't like to think about, in your business, we know it's fire. And because I don't like to think about bad things happening, I worry about things, but I don't plan as I should for a fire occurring. And you said something to me before we started this segment. What did you say? If it's going to happen, or it could happen?
I said your hair was nice.
Other than that,
Now, we were talking about how where we least expect a fire to occur, that's where we should expect
all right,
it.
so it could be in our home, in our business, like we're out shopping someplace and a fire could occur.
At a relative's house,
Right.
because you wouldn't think that while you were visiting a relative, something could happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're at home, we always look out the window and see the house across the street, and we see their house on fire. We never think about our own.
Yeah.
But guess what? We are that house across the street as well.
All right, so there's something we can do about that, and that's why we're here today to talk about planning or escaping something that happens.
Well, John, this by far is one of my favorite areas of fire prevention, because it's about prevention. I do believe I mentioned the last time that the fire department could roll into your house and put out what may be on fire, trash can or your stove or something, and we would extinguish that and then we'd roll back to the firehouse. But how much better would you have been if it had not occurred? And that happens through education, awareness. If I can just convince, or if I could just move some parent or someone to just think about, wow, I am that house across the street. On what can we start doing differently starting today that we didn't do yesterday or last week. So I always like to encourage people that especially if there's children in the house, you want to make sure that you have working smoke alarms. You have to.
Yeah.
And the City of Wilmington, the fire department, we've been giving out alarms for eons. And still yet, it's people who still do not have smoke alarms. But that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I know, but I want to say that the Wilmington Fire Department does an outstanding job in this whole education area. And that's what you do. You spend a good bit of your day talking to children and families and making sure their homes are up to speed, up to code, if you will, and that they have fire alarms. But we could, I could go home today. I actually should, and so should you watching the program. I could go home and do a check in my house on electrical outlets. In other words, you got to prevent some of this stuff from happening. I want to make sure that there are no matches around when the young children are in the home, or they don't have access to the matches or flammable materials or whatever. So there's all of that you can do, but then as you brought us almost to the end point, which is, okay, if you think you have your house in order, now make sure you have a smoke alarm or some sort of a fire detection system in place.
Yes, but so what I often suggest parents do is wait till everyone is in the house, and you don't have to wait till 3 a.m. in the morning, but just wait till everyone is in the house and go to one of the smoke alarms, and they all have a test button on it, and just push the test button. And what your family does when you push that alarm, that's what they're going to do at 3 a.m. when the fire alarm goes off and there's an emergency in the house.
And when you say what they're going to do, you mean how's this child going to maybe watch out, make sure the other child is out or is led to safety?
Right.
I mean, it's all what each of us do as members of our household when, God forbid, a fire occurs.
Well, John, how is a child or anyone going to know unless you practice?
Yeah, right.
When our children are in school, they're mandated by law that the schools have to have X amount of fire drills per school year.
Right.
All right, but there's no mandation that requires you to have them in your home. So what we want to do is just inspire any household or every household to check your smoke alarms, because it's just a matter of time that it is going to happen. And you should have a designated meeting place. So what happens when the smoke alarm goes off and let's say the adults are out of the house? It doesn't mean that the kids are being abandoned, but it could be date night and the kids are in the responsibility of an older sibling or they have a babysitter.
Right.
So what does the children know to do? What they know to do is what you've practiced and you have taught them to do. If it's nothing, that's what they'll do.
Well, and I like your approach. You're being perfectly frank and upfront with people. Look, there should be adult supervision around. Sometimes there may not be. We got to make sure that the children know just as much as the adults do in terms of what to do. I know you are, and I'm going to credit you with some of this. Every time I see a young child and we hear the story of a child who was able to lead other family members out of a dangerous situation, or a child who called 911 and was able to relay pertinent information in an emergency situation. I think back to people like you. You're the ones out there on the front lines who are actually teaching these young people. You go into the schools, you go into homes, and you try to teach people just what it is you should do.
Well, John, thank you for that, but there's no I in team.
No, I know that.
So I want to credit, if we have good success in fire prevention, then it is a group effort, because when I go into schools, children want to see the fire trucks.
Yeah.
So I have good bosses that whatever I need for a presentation, then they allow me to have what I need. And we put the kids on the fire truck and we show them some of our equipment. And it is important that when they go home, if they remember one thing,
That's it.
just one thing,
Right.
then our job
Well,
is done.
and you know what? And that impresses a child. I mean,
Yes, it
look,
does.
I know as a kid, I was impressed by firefighters, fire trucks, and so on and so forth. So if you can leave that with that child's going to know a little bit more. If someone watching the program would like an assessment of their home, or if they have information, they want information about a smoke detector,
Mm-hmm.
what number should we call?
We have a smoke detector hotline, and if you call the smoke detector hotline, that number is 571-4361.
Okay.
And it's a recorded tape,
Yeah.
and you just leave your name, your address, and your phone number. It's important that we have your phone number, and because you might live out in the county area,
Yeah.
so we would just direct you to your closest fire department
Okay.
in your area.
And if I also want, if I want to get an assessment of my home in terms
Mm-hmm.
of fire safety, just leave that information there too.
No, you could call the main telephone number for what you just suggested, and is 576-3120.
Okay.
Is the number to the fire marshal's
All right.
office.
Wilmington Fire Department Inspector Beverly Wiltshire, thank you so much for being with us.
You're so welcome.
Talking about making a plan, it's so important.
Make a
okay?
plan.
All righty.
All right.
Partners in Public Safety will continue in just a moment.
Hey! Hey! Hey, you! Could you put that coffee cup in here, please? Yep, I'll take anything on that list you've got. Cans, bottles, newspapers. That trash is worth money here in Wilmington when you toss it into one of these bins, so hit me with everything you've got.
Can I do this myself?
Well, sure. Then you could earn your own rewards. Do a good thing for the planet, and it's so easy.
Hey, Wilmington. Sign up for the Recycle Bank program and receive your own recycle container with wheels. You'll then be credited for a certain dollar amount for every pound of recyclables you provide, all redeemable for valuable rewards.
There's enough recyclables for everyone, so let's recycle, Wilmington, okay?
You know what? I'm doing it.
Just call the number. You gotta call the number. This number right here. Call that number.
We welcome you back now to Partners in Public Safety, and we really appreciate the fact that you join us on this program to learn a little bit more from the men and women of the Wilmington Police, Fire, and Emergency Management teams here in the city of Wilmington. And right now, joining us is George Giles, who is the Emergency Management Director for the city of Wilmington. And George, we are taping this program one day after we in the Wilmington area were dealing with the possibility of severe thunderstorms, possible hail, large volumes of rain, even possible tornadoes. I got to tell you, folks, George and his team at the Emergency Management Center, the Operations Center, I've come to rely on them over the years because George is kind of on the front line when it comes to receiving information about weather and what's going to happen. Why don't you do this? I think it'd be interesting for folks. Kind of take us through this day that I was referring to. What was happening on that day in terms of what your job was?
Okay, John, like you said, we're constantly monitoring the weather. We have a weather management team throughout the state that partners, again, one of our partnerships with the National Weather Service. So we started monitoring this storm and possibly this event on Tuesday. As you know, we kept our bridge calls up. We have calls twice a day. We knew the storms were coming. We knew how severe they were, and we knew the conditions. We started to prepare not only on Wednesday evening, but when Thursday morning, when we come into work, we started to put our plan in action.
Yeah, and just for perspective, for the because we do tape this program, we're talking about essentially a Tuesday through Thursday period here, where you're trying to get ready for what we thought was going to happen on a Thursday.
That is correct.
Right.
And that is a typical process. We usually, for a weather, especially a weather event, with the again with the technology, we're learning of these weather events as they come across the country. So it is like that. So in this case, on this day, after we got everybody together, we notified our news people, Channel 22, our website. We put that information up on them that the possible of flash floodings, the conditions, seek shelter immediately. We actually told the people to move their cars out of low-lying areas, move their furnitures and stuff above the locations of where it might typically flood in their home. We then, because we do have a designated flooding area, we actually instituted our DEM system, which is our Delaware Emergency Management Notification System. We actually telephone called over 800 residents directly to their house and give them that message.
You know, and what can throw us off sometimes on some of the weather emergencies that, you know, they're kind of likelihoods. Something is likely to happen. What throws us off is, let me just use this recent day where we had a big storm in the morning, and by 11 or 12, it was beautiful out. The sun was shining. You know, it can throw us off. We can let our guard down, but inside the Emergency Operations Center, you know actually what's still coming.
And that's correct. In yesterday's incident, when we sent out the message around 8:30, about 8 o'clock or 8:30, we were having calls back to our center saying, hey, it's beautiful out, doesn't look like anything. And within like 7 minutes, it was dark, it was storming and everything. And that's why we try to only use the emergency notification system when we know it's absolutely necessary. And that's the kind of events that happen. In yesterday's event, the afternoon event was supposed to be worse than the morning event.
Right.
Longer duration, worse conditions. But as the storm came over, it went south more and actually missed Wilmington altogether, and we reduced all our warnings and watches by 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right, and then you'll have some people say, well, and you know, they'll not only jump on you or us in the city, but they jump on the weather people, and they'll say, well, wait a minute, you got us all upset about this, and then nothing occurred or was very minor. Well, you know what? That's the way these weather patterns work. Now, I remember, I always try to listen to the path of these storms. And you know, we are very lucky to have some of the new technology. The weather forecasters are indeed able to do a better job, I think, than they ever have in terms of predicting. But you got to watch. If something goes to the south of us, then we happen to luck out. If we've been through this on many storms. If something takes a more northerly direction, then it could hit us pretty hard. But we don't have the luxury of knowing exactly what's going to happen with these things. Your job is to make sure that we're as prepared as possible.
Right. The National Weather uses several modeling systems, not just local ones, but they use several, and they try to pick out the best one. But the way the weather is, it could go. You see that all across the country. There's tornadoes warnings and all that kind of stuff. They don't hit some areas, but then they hit the other areas. But our message is there's a possibility. And if you don't react when we give you the message, if you see some of the damage, the people injured and or killed, it's too late if you don't take our action.
Right. Okay. George Stiles with us, our Emergency Management Director here in the city of Wilmington. Up on our website, wilmingtonde.gov. You go to the Emergency Management Office. Plenty of information there for you. George, always good to see you, and thank you for being with us.
And thank you for helping us get this message out to our partners.
Okay, well, we'll continue to do that. And Partners in Public Safety, it's all about making sure you have the information you need to protect yourselves and your family and your property. And we thank you so much for joining us on this program.